Now we have a voice that tells us. So welcome. This is going to be the Path of Heart. And it's the journey we're all on. And it's kind of an interesting scenario. I was talking to someone earlier today and, like, why do we come to Earth? What is it we're learning? And how do we take it back to love? How do you transmute pain back to a place where you can really have that connection? Have the parents you chose, have everything in this life come full circle. And what a challenge, but hey, what else is a soul going to do, right? So here we are on Earth getting ready to rock and roll. It's going to be a very interesting summer. Astrologically, we have 5 planets going retrograde, and they're the light ones. Yeah, Pluto and Saturn. And so it's going to be a great summer to release any pain, any emotional pain, any physical pain. And by December, it's going to look pretty good. So take heart. We're all in it together. We all agreed to come to Earth at this time and help things change. So take deep breaths. And really, my most favorite tool of all is that grounding. If you can stay grounded, boy, you can just weather anything. It's kind of like think of a tree that bends in the wind. And they actually did this study that trees that were grown like inside often die because they don't get any resistance from the world. So if a big wind comes or a storm comes and the tree gets shaken and the weather's cold and then hot, it really strengthens the tree. It gives it resilience. And we're kind of the same way. So if you grew up in a perfect world with perfect parents, you probably wouldn't be as capable as you are. Now, in some days, that would be great. But other days, it's like, hey, can we have a break yet? So yeah, we're all in it. So go ahead and let's practice grounding and just getting here, and then we'll dive in. Take a deep breath and make that grounding cord. Find the very base of your spine and look down and find the center of the earth. And allow those 2 points to be connected. You can imagine sitting on a tree trunk where the roots grow all the way down to the center of the earth. You can use an anchor and chain, a beam of light. Energy isn't fussy. But as that grounding cord goes down, it starts to anchor you to the earth. And you can imagine it as big around as your hips. And just allowing that grounding cord to pull out of you any foreign energy, any effort, anything that makes it hard to be in a body. And breathe. And now take 3 deep breaths. And when you do that, you tell the body that you're turning off the connection to the world around you. And you're going inward, deep inside. And that's where your connection as a spirit is to this body and where you connect to source. It's how you get all your information. The body kind of runs on automatic, where the spirit part of you holds lifetime after lifetime's storehouse of information. So breathe. And just for a minute, just become aware of yourself as a spirit. You're part of source, no matter where you are or what you do. And the more you can enjoy being you, the deeper you'll find your connection. So even if you were a street sweeper, if you just love sweeping the streets and meeting people, and you can be just as high and great and brilliant as if you were a philosopher. It doesn't matter what it is that you do, it's that you really enjoy it. You put your heart in it. And one of my favorite quotes comes from a well-known person who said, "In truth, I tell you, the least among you, according to your perception, is already equal to the greatest. And there is none among you who is less than I am." That's a pretty interesting quote. Let's do it one more time. "In truth, I tell you, the least among you." So think of your picture of the least. "According to your perception, is already equal to the greatest. And there is none among you who is less than I am." That happened to be Jesus. He was a pretty cool dude. So, what do those words mean to you? It's like when you look around the planet, there isn't anyone who isn't worthy. And many of us get put in that place from time to time. And it's looking at the world with different eyes, changing your perspective so that you can start to see a whole different level of value. You might just take a minute. If you're comfortable, close your eyes and just look at your life. Look at times when you felt stuck in less than, where you barely had any money, where you were struggling to make things meet. What is that picture that we all go through from time to time, that we're not enough? And just tonight, we're going to look in curiosity. There's no judgment. Everybody's been there. And just getting curious. What makes you ever feel that you're less than? What are the expectations? Where do we get afraid to stand and let love or spirit pour through us? Where we become the channel that Source uses to move energy. Fascinating to look at, especially if you're not judging, and there's no point in judging, it's a waste of time. Get curious. Why would you ever believe you were less? Where do those pictures come from? And even better, why do I choose to hold on to them? Isn't that fascinating? So let's dig. Do you find it from family, from peers? And again, there's no blame. We're just getting curious. The world at large, boy, it is an intense energy. And so really looking at, where does that invalidation come in that sways you out of just loving who you are and living your life? So as we all get pulled into that stream, then how do you get back out as well? What is worth built on? So if you threw away your title, you threw away your job, you threw away everything material that you have, what's left? Can you love just being present with yourself? I read this interesting book by a man whose son was killed in a skiing accident, and it just, broke him. And losing a 18-year-old son in the prime of his life was almost more than he could take. And he really put him on a spiritual journey. And I just love some of the things he came up with. But one of them was he really discovered his relationship with Source. And he said, you know, we're the apple of God's eye. And it doesn't matter what God or what energy, how you see that name, goddess, source, light, whatever you want to call it, universal love. Just think of yourself that way for a minute, that there's no one cuter than you. And God's just sitting there beaming at you. And can you just for a minute let that beam in and be in agreement? Yeah, I'm pretty damn cute. You should see me when I'm hopping around, whatever it is. Just allowing yourself to soak in that energy for a minute. And his premise was we've received about 10 to 15% of what the universe has for us, handpicked. And are you ready to let the 85% that hasn't arrived yet in? It's going to be fun. So breathe for a minute. We've all had the days when we didn't feel enough. Let's take a deep breath and go on the other side for a little bit and play with it. And then you can find the balance. I don't know if right this minute I could have 100% of what Source has picked for me. That's a lot to have, but I sure could have a bunch. So it's kind of fun. Just let in a little bit and see how that feels to you. It's really easy to be critical. Sometimes it's harder to love ourselves. And as you drink in those thoughts, those levels of awareness, it's kind of like as we start to wake up and see we're co-creators with the Source, we are the authors of this lifetime. How do we want it to go? How do we want the rest of this life to unfold? What colors, what energy are you going to carry with you from here to your death? And you can envision that as, say, your death, say there's a straight line in front of you that represents this life. And the end of this life is going to be a big, beautiful red rose. And just, it's out in the future. You don't have to worry about it. But look at that timeline between this moment and the end of your life. What colors do you want in there? What concepts do you want to be grounded, happy, playful, live in abundance? What is it that you want? We all want a little bit different. Do you want to have a partner? Do you want to have puppies, rabbits, kitties? Just look at the frequency of living your life. And it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like you get this blank chalkboard and the Source says, okay, what do you want? I don't know. And that's the challenge. Sometimes, I know for me that was a lot of years back, but I can remember the first thing I wrote on that board was I bought myself fresh flowers every week to remind myself I was worth it. And that's how I started in my 20s, was remembering, hey, I have something to offer. I, as an immortal being, am here, free will, ready to cause trouble at a moment's notice. So one of my gifts is amusement, permission, and stirring the pot. And those will be 3 attributes I take with me the rest of this life because it's so much fun. What is it that you like? Each of us choose all day long through our thoughts what we feed. Do we feed the pain? Do we feed the love, the laughter? There is no right or wrong. You can learn just as much from pain as you can from pleasure. So just notice, looking on this life from curiosity, what have you picked so far? Have you been having fun? Has it been tough? Little of both? And where do you see it going? Even you can look at that red rose at the end of your timeline. Are you going to go out with a bang? Are you going to go out on a high note? Do you want to go out alone with people? A lot of choices. And all of them are totally different. So again, instead of judging, we're going to look from a place of curiosity. So just for a minute, take a deep breath and find one place in your life that maybe it's hard. Anybody have any dark corners in their universe? Maybe it's not enough time or not enough money or not enough friendship. Maybe you're lonely. Whatever it is, look at that dark spot for just a minute. And again, out of curiosity, like a child at heart, starting to shine your light into that darkness. It's like, oh, inviting that pain or that problem to sit next to you. What are you here to teach me? What can I learn from you? And just being with it. And looking at least two things that you're learning from that experience. And breathe. And just take that darker vibration or that heavier vibration. And as you shine light into it, just like a little kid with a flashlight, what's one thing that validates you from that experience? One example I would say for myself is I grew up with a dad who was a doctor. He was a genius, very competitive, top of his field, and he had a tremendous amount of certainty. And I was a psychic and a healer. And you know, it took a lot of energy, it took a lot of certainty to stand up and say that. You have your way, I have mine. And I do it through spirit, you do it through body. Both ways are right. But to find my certainty, it took a lot of releasing energy, blowing pictures in order to claim that certainty. But boy, what a gift he gave me by doing that. So it made me own my truth. So the darkest part of that became the lightest or the brightest. And so it's transmuting that dark back into light. And take that thing you've been sitting next to, any darkness or heaviness, and look at how can you transmute it back into light? How can you use it as a catalyst, as a force that really works in your life? You don't have to have the answer tonight, but it sure is fun to ponder on. And shining light into the dark places is what heals them. And especially if you look at little kids like that make a tent with a tablecloth over a table and they have a flashlight, oh my God, it's magic. They're having so much fun. And if you can do it from that same level of enthusiasm, there's nothing you can't get through. And that's really good to remember on a tough day. And there's going to be some tough days this fall. So you might have to go out and buy yourself a flashlight because it's going to be a great tool. And you might have to sit on your couch and ground and go, okay, I got my magic flashlight. I'm going to have to do some looking. But you've got a tool and half the world doesn't. So you have the advantage. Always in each moment of our experience as a soul, there's always that spark of divine consciousness. Each of us deliberately came here at this time. And we're all figuring out how to communicate with each other, how to bring it all together. And, you know, I can see like 20 years from now, I can see that unity, that world coming together in the way that we envision it. And it's really hard, the birthing of it. But you ask any mom, hey, every one of those labor pains was necessary to get that baby here. And once you have that baby in your arms, whew, yeah, you can remember what labor was like, but it was worth it. So we're in the process and we all came here to help. So you could say we're midwives, we're midwiving the earth. And it's not always pretty, but there's so many of us that are holding that light that it's just amazing. So don't give up. Don't take it the wrong way. Get curious about this world. Each of us also goes into the world and we use our energy to project out into the world, to create our life experience. And just notice, what does that say about you? How do people experience you? We each have our own unique way of being. No one's right or wrong. But how, just look at a little movie. How does the world experience you? How do you come across? Good days and bad. Do people scream and run the other way? Do they welcome you? How are you seen? How do you want to be seen? And we're going to play a little game. It's a little energy game. So again, with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine standing outside your front door. And I want you to just open the door and walk into your house or your apartment as if you were a stranger. And just notice, what is that front room? What are the colors, the furniture? How's it arranged? Just notice. What does that room say about you? Is it inviting? Is it trashed? Is it formal? Is it informal? What is the feeling walking in that space? And then again, with your eyes closed, walk into your kitchen and notice what kind of energy is in your kitchen. Is it a place of community? Do people like to come and hang out there? Is it a room you avoid? Is it a room you like? Again, not right or wrong, just getting curious. What does that kitchen say about you? Then turn and walk down the hall to your bedroom. This is more your private space. And what does your inner sanctuary look like? What does that say about you? The colors, the layout. How is the energy set? Is there anything you would change? And again, we're just getting curious, but it's fun to look and see how the world sees you, how you see yourself. And take a little breath, and you can pretend you have a magic wand, and just changing any energy in any of those rooms and resetting it if you'd like. The rooms that hold the right energy for you, expand them. Give them room to shine. Like, wow, I love the creativity in my living room. Whatever it is, let yourself really validate it, enhance it. Same with the kitchen, making friends with it. You might play Jenga, stacking your dishes. You might be a neatnik. There's no right way. Just notice how it feels to you. Is it inviting? Or do you avoid it at all costs? And just with that magic wand, again, just changing the energy so it feels inviting and good to you. Might already be there. Just giving yourself that space. And then last but not least, walk into the sanctuary of your bedroom and feel that energy. Notice if you're have a partner, you might notice your partner's side of the room, their side of the bed versus your side. My husband and I tried switching sides of the bed. And after 2 nights, I said, I can't sleep here. It's so much set at your energy. We have to switch back. We have changed all my art to his side and his to mine. And we had to put everything back. It was hysterical. So just see how you set things. What makes you feel good? What are you committed to communicating about yourself? What do your creations express to others? Now, this is going to date me, but way back, I would go visit my aunt and uncle, and they had the like plastic on their furniture so that it couldn't get spoiled. That was a thing way back in time. It was hysterical. I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And so some people have that perfect picture of you can't let anything get messed up. Other people live extremely casually and nothing bothers them. And they're both great life experiences. They both teach you something. Just notice which side you're more comfortable on, the perfect side or the slightly messy side. Where do you fall in there? And giving yourself permission to do it your own way. what we can seek to convey really reveals kind of the truth of how you see yourself in the world. Each of us is made by source, however you see that energy. And we're all creators. And there are so many different ways to create, just like there are so many areas. You can live in the Sahara Desert. You can live in the jungles. You can live on an island. Angela's freezing out in New Zealand. It's winter out there. There is no right or wrong place, but look at all the different options we're giving. And out of all the things, all the options that you were given, you picked where you are. And that's pretty cool. So letting yourself have this expression, letting yourself embrace all things, bringing them in alignment with that love, that part of you is, as a spirit, is nothing but love. The more you can laugh and enjoy yourself, the brighter that love is. It expands. And it's really interesting if you think of like peace, love, joy, forgiveness, abundance, that's all about the expression of love. It's spirit pouring forth. And if you look at the opposite, fear, death, guilt, resistance, all that is a cry for love and healing. So when you meet someone who's really fearful or guilty or afraid, it's just a cry for help. It's a cry for healing. And so they're not bad people. They're just begging for someone to help them discover the love inside themselves, to heal it so that they can come home. Because each of us like coming back to ourselves. We're actually pretty cool as spirit. And we bring that innocent awareness to each experience when we really listen and react from our own playful place. So take a deep breath. And again, using that concept of we've already received 15% of what source handpicked for you. Just vibrate your heart chakra for a few minutes and start to open up into some of the rest, that 85%. Doesn't mean you have to bring it all in. Bring what's comfortable. And just with your eyes closed, what does that look like? What do you see? Is there a color? Is there a vibration? Can you turn on that part of you that's curious? It's like, what would God wrap up and give me? Huh? What kind of present is it going to be? How exciting. Just like Christmas, it's so much fun trying to guess what's in those boxes. Anybody shake them? Anybody want to tease those ribbons? I want to open them all right away. However you envision it, let yourself begin to open to that energy. You are not a small spirit. We're much bigger than our bodies as spirit. Take that deep breath and find the colors. let that vibration roll into you, starting with the top of your head and flowing all the way down, filling up your brain, all those serious thoughts in that analyzer. And you have to be a tiny bit amused when you take things serious, because 5 years from now, are you going to care? No. Look at what you worried about 10 years ago and how much of it has come to fruition. Mostly not. So with that same wild abandonment, just release any of those things that you worry about. That way you make room for more of the joy, more of the actual living and the being. So as you're making room for it, your aura starts to get a little bit bigger and more of that light pours into you, filling you from head to toe and letting it vibrate in between each of the cells. We think of our physical body as solid, but actually it's not. One of my favorite science things is that chairs have random molecules. They're not solid, they're random. And the wood in them, instead of them being densely packed molecules, they're random. They're spread out all over the place. They have a lot of space between them. I thought, oh, that's just brilliant. So give yourself that same room between the cells in your physical body. Room for new things, new experiences in life. And so when we come to a rough patch, imagine you're in a class for rapids in a little raft. Hopefully you'll have a guide or two with you, going down the river, going, well, isn't this interesting? I didn't know this river had such big drop-offs. I didn't know there was these rocks around the bend. And if you can keep it in that sense of adventure, you still go through the same stuff. You just do it with a little bit more amusement and it makes it easier. There's no trick to life. It's just dancing with it. So giving yourself permission. And last but not least, take like a tuning fork and talk to the DNA in the physical body. It's like tune it up to your crown chakra. That's all the information is at the top of your head. And let your DNA match that crown so that on a cellular level, you start to bring the vibration of the body up to the same frequency as the spirit, letting them work hand in hand together. You have much more awareness when you use the spirit and the body together. You can blow pictures easier. You can change concepts. So breathing, letting that tone, that frequency go through all the cells in your DNA. There's 12 strands. They're kind of like a rainbow. You can't really separate them out. But they all work together. And all you have to do is say hello to them. Give them permission to go full tilt boogie. And they will. Excellent. And then you can take a deep breath and create that huge gold sun, twice as big as your body, above your head. Fill it with any additional energy you're ready to bring in and receive. pop it. And let it flow like liquid gold through the whole body, filling you from head to toe. With the energy of the gifts that Source has handpicked for you, because you're the apple of his eye. Someone he just thinks is cute as cute can be. Nothing you have to change. It's just allowing yourself to have it. And tonight's a great night to try. Let it in, practice. And then add just a touch of amusement. And you can send that vibration, I love you, to the body. I love you to the spirit. Not a bad way to travel. Okay.